A dominant win for the Cincinnati Bengals going into the bye week, and one that we didn't necessarily predict going the way it did. Let's break down how the Bengals go into the bye feeling good.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Lisco. He's your host, James Rapine. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network here on Locked On Bengals, and even through the bye week, we are covering your Cincinnati Bengals every day, free and available everywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And we appreciate all of you who make us your first listen and subscribe and follow the podcast that we're delivered to your devices when we upload. And hopefully you stayed tuned as the Bengals recovered from their Week 8 Monday Night Football debacle. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, by the way, daily fantasy made easy. You can get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 right now at PrizePicks with promo code LOCKEDIN. Go check it out. Promo code LOCKEDON at prizepicks.com. James, Joe Mixon, 22 carries, 153 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, adds 4 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown through the air as he sets a Cincinnati Bengals franchise record with 5 touchdowns in a single game, which he counted on his fingers. Like if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw James do
5 times. Camera. 5 times.
And if the game was even remotely competitive, you could have seen him tie the NFL record of 6 single game touchdowns.
7 times. Not
the Bengals,
8, not 9. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Jumped out all over the Carolina Panthers early in this game. And I mean, it was just so lopsided at the beginning of the game. The Panthers were 3 and out 3 times, and then it was 21-0. And then things really got out of hand for them.
This is what you do to bad teams.
Yeah, where was this last week?
You're right. By the way, you're right. Because if you start this way last week, boo birds are coming out, garbage cans are going on heads, and so that's the difference. If the last thing you want to do is let PJ Walker get into any kind of rhythm. What did they do? They didn't. They shut that thing down. And by the way, we'll talk about the defense in a second. What really set the tone for me was the fact that 9 plays, 90 yards, they go down, they score. We're the best. You're the worst. We have Joe Burrow. You don't. We have Joe Mixon. You don't. Deontay Foreman, right? Like in their head, they're like, Deontay Foreman is not better than Joe Mixon. And Joe was really good. He had that 35-yard catch on the opening drive and had 3 carries, 12 yards, including the touchdown from 2 yards out. And it looked like the offense that you kind of would expect, especially without Jamar Chase, where you're not going to necessarily push the ball deep downfield, but you hit Boyd. He had a reception. Higgins had a couple of catches. Hurst had a couple of catches. Mixon did. Like it was just spreading the ball around and letting Joe Burrow be the point guard. And when that happened, I was like, oh, all right, this is how the game's going to be. Mm-hmm. And what it's going to come down to is, can this defense, shorthanded, no Cheeto, no Mike Hilton, no DJ Reader, no Josh Tupou. I mean, sheesh, most of the Bengals inactives were because of injuries, not because of just scratches or whatever the case is. And you never want that. You want healthy scratches. That's what I want. You want back-end roster guys that you know aren't going to be inactive going in. And this defense stepped up. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, interception. Another interception, 3 and out. I misspoke because there's 1 first down in the first half to Carolina. 1. And it came on a penalty. A penalty. I mean, this was complete and utter dominance. And this is exactly how you want to go into the bye. Are the Bengals perfect? No. But you dominate a team that you should beat, that everyone expected you to dominate coming into the season, right? Like this was never a game that anyone was Carolina at home win. Everyone thought that. And the Bengals still showed that, yeah, they can be that team. And are they consistent right now? No team in the NFL is, but it was a heck of a win. Wire to wire, 35-0 at halftime. The whole second half was garbage time. Joe Burrow had his feet up for 18 minutes of gameplay, which is just wild. And maybe 19 minutes of gameplay. And so, yeah, it was a hell of a win for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, getting off to a hot start. How many times have we talked about it? And this is what can happen when you do that. This is what
Yeah.
happened to them last week.
Yep.
Right? In a lot of ways, this is what they were on the receiving end of last week. And this week, when I knew, you talked about on the first drive, oh, this is what kind of game it's going to be. For me, it was a screen being an explosive play for them, which they've struggled to get the screen game, the big plays off of the screen game. They've had a few like 8, 10, 15-yard plays off of screens, but the screen game hasn't really been great for them this year. And then in addition to that, they get under center, pull 2 guards. I think it was 2 guards, pulled 2 guys on a Samaje Perine run from under center, and that goes for 9 yards. And then, they run a toss play. The toss play that has been public enemy number 1, 2, or 3. It's pretty high up on the list for Bengals fans this year. Goes for a touchdown. And then later they come out and they get a big play off of the same idea. So when you see, and then the Joe Burrow gets them into that jet sweep to Trent Taylor a couple times. They keep attacking the right side of that Panthers run defense. They saw something on tape that they liked over there, and they kept going after it, and it kept working. And I think in other games, when they've seen something they've liked, and it's been obvious to me, and I've talked about it after games from like, yeah, they saw something they liked, and they tried to do this early in the game, and it didn't work, and they had to adjust. This week, there wasn't a necessary adjustment. What they saw on tape and what they liked, they came out and did it and out executed the Panthers on those plays, and it worked, and the Panthers didn't have those answers. And this is not a terrible run defense. This is a crazy thing to me. By EPA per play, they're like the 4th best run defense in the league. By DVOA, they're the 7th best run defense in the league. And the Bengals, in both of those measures, among the worst rushing offenses in the league. And that's why I say nobody could have seen this coming. It didn't go the way that we thought it would go. I think you even said in our game preview, like, they're not going to run the ball. It's going to have to be Joe Burrow. And they come out and surprise everybody and go for 7 yards a carry. And Joe Mixon has revenge against the haters game. Talk about revenge game against the haters for Joe Mixon.
It was. He was great. Great. Explosive, was decisive in his cuts, was, trying to run guys over at the end of runs. And you're right, average 7 yards a carry, 153 yards. We mentioned the 5 touchdowns, 4 on the ground, which is a Bengals record, 5 total Bengals record. The fade, Joe Burrow told him to run a fade in the huddle.
It's like, just go out there and run a fade.
Just run a fade. Yeah. And it works. And
it's a clear out route. It's a clear out route.
Some days things just work, man.
Yeah.
And that was today. And they got out early and they broke the will of the Carolina Panthers, because those edge plays, after a little bit, it was like, oh, Jake Lisco could go out there and get you 4 or 5. I mean, and P. Ryan and Mixon were getting 8, 10, 12, like chunk plays on runs. We haven't seen that this year ever. Not like that. And so it's huge. And part of the reason it's huge is because, 1, you want to establish a run, all of that good stuff. But 2, we've seen number 28 hit his stride halfway through a season before and really heat up the second half of a year. And so maybe this is the start of that. And that's exciting. And we're not going to know, until November 20th and beyond. But it was a good start, because it took some pressure off of Joe Burrow, who was awesome today. I thought Joe Burrow was really good. 22 of 28, didn't need to do a ton. 206 yards. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with watching Joe Burrow just kind of, complete 78.6% of his passes, throw a touchdown, quarterback sneak another, and kind of avoid a bunch of hits and be pretty good. He did take a couple, but overall, pretty good day at the office for both Joes. Love the touchdown celebration on the first TD as well. Apparently that was ad-libbed. Burrow just decided to get down and start taking pictures of Mixon. Whatever that was in that camera that he was holding, and obviously he wasn't holding a camera, it worked, because 4 more touchdowns later, Joe Mixon, like, Bengals fans are always going to remember the day they were at Paycor Stadium for Joe Mixon scoring 5 touchdowns. Like, this is going to be a day, regardless of how the season goes. This is like Corey Dillon, 278 rushing yards. This is like Chad Johnson scoring 3 touchdowns. I remember this one. This is a personal one. In 2007 against the Titans. That's what this is, the Joe Mixon touchdown game. I'm not sure how the rest of the season is going to go, but Bengals fans went home happy on Sunday.
But there's also a chance that this is something that they can build on for the rest of the season. Yes, it's memorable, but a lot of fans, I hear them saying it as you're saying it. Well, this season, they still have a chance, right? What's going to happen for the rest of the season? You don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season. I come here for you to tell me the future, James.
Well, let's do it.
we'll keep talking about this because I do think there's some things that this team can build on here and some trends we can talk about with this offense going forward. So we'll continue on the offense for a little bit more here coming up next.
But first, it's time to tell you about daily fantasy and daily fantasy the way it should be done, because PrizePicks is the spot you need to go to for daily fantasy. Why? Well, because this is how it works. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they're going to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, that's it. You're not going up against a bunch of different people all across the country. No, you're going up against one projection. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. And I talk about Stan the Man a lot. He's a loyal Locked On Bengals listener. He's sent me multiple times this year where he's won with PrizePicks, won big. And you can too. And it's not just with the NFL. No. From college hoops, which starts this week, to college football, which, how about Brian Kelly going for 2 wowzers? NBA, which is in full swing now, and so much more. So check them out right now. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. All you got to do is download the PrizePicks app, go to prizepicks.com, use promo code Locked On, and $50 becomes $100 because they double it with the promo code, or $100 becomes $200. Again, go there now, prizepicks.com or the PrizePicks app. Use promo code Locked On for an instant deposit match up to $100.
Jason, I want to stay on the offense for a little bit longer, even though I think the defense was also very impressive in this game. Just a couple numbers real quick, and then I want to get an update on the fist bump with Brian Callahan, because the offense went well today. So I'm assuming...
Fist bump date. It's called a bump date, baby. Oh,
you just come up with that? Like, were you ready for that?
I just came up with it.
Wow.
You said an update on the fist bump date, baby.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. The numbers I wanted to hit on just really quick. Like, early in this game, the Bengals just stayed out of third downs altogether. They were 1 of 2 on third downs, but they had
Hurst. It was the Hayden Hurst one on the first drive. That was the only one I remember.
And then they did have a 3 and out, which is easy to forget about because it was such a blip on the radar. The Panthers didn't capitalize on it. Maybe they do. The game goes differently. Like last week when we talk about the Bengals not capitalizing on early opportunities, but early downs for the Bengals in this game, massively successful, especially with just getting to, I think it was 21-0, and they had 10 total first downs. They had run 31 plays, and they were 1 of 2 on third down. That is a sign of your offense going very efficiently. And we've talked about early down woes this year. Maybe I haven't emphasized it enough, but they haven't been very good on early downs. And I don't remember if it was Zach Taylor or Joe Burrow in their press conference talking about it after the game. It was a point of emphasis this week, and I think they exceeded expectations. When you have early rush EPA of 0.43, and you might be wondering what's EPA. EPA, just really quick, expected points average, expected points added, and it's just a measure of offensive efficiency. So it's taking before and after a play. Did this play increase the odds of you scoring on this drive? When you have 0.43 rushing EPA per play, that's better than most passing offenses on a week-to-week basis. That would be in the 90th percentile of passing offenses. Most teams are below 0.1 EPA per play on the season in the rush, and actually all teams are, and most teams are below 0 EPA per play. So when you do 0.43 EPA per play, and I know this is a lot of math and might be too much for a lot of you, that just tells you that your running offense is doing something very, very rare. That's how good the Bengals rush offense was today, especially on early downs. And the reason that I'm bringing it up is because against a solid running defense in Carolina, this is encouraging. You talked about Joe Mixon hitting his stride midseason. Talk about the offensive line hitting their stride potentially. And always caution about taking away too much from a single game. You can say it after last week against the Browns. You can say it after week 1 against the Steelers. You can say it after this week in a blowout. But there are reasons to think maybe they can build on this in the running game. And if they can get the running game going like this when Jamar Chase gets back, which is something that Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon both also talked about, potentially coming. I don't know how much to read into that stuff after the bye. Then the sky's the limit for the offense, right? And that's why when you talk about you don't know how the rest of the season is going to go and you're looking for signs, that's one. If they can get the early down rushing game going like this, then they stay ahead of the chains, which they did for this entire game, and it makes your life so much easier on offense.
No doubt. I mean, yeah, it does. It makes it much easier on offense, and we'll see. Joe Burrow did mention Jamar Chase while we're on that topic, and said, who knows, maybe he'll be back for the Pittsburgh game. So we'll see. You know, he kind of hinted at that.
That's why I bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he knows what he's doing there. Right. So I don't know.
You would think.
Could be something, might not be anything. Regardless, though, the Bengals are going to be healthier the next time they play than they were today. And I really want to praise this defense, which we can get to. But you mentioned a fist bump date.
Right.
And I have some sad news. Brian Callahan and I did do a fist bump ahead of Monday night's game against the Browns. It didn't work.
You're not supposed to tell anybody. You're supposed to keep that on the down low.
It didn't work. I'm going to be upfront with people.
It's the transparency you get here on Locked On Bengals.
But we rebounded today, 3-1 on the year with the fist bump. And so I think it's pretty safe to say that that's going to continue. And look, I know you're like, do you really just wait at the tunnel for Brian Callahan? No, that is not why I'm waiting. It might have to do with the franchise. And if you pay attention to my tweets, maybe that's why you'll be able to tell what video I post or don't post. But yeah, 3-1 with the fist bump date. Good there. And getting back to what you said, Jake, look, this offense, what was it supposed to be? It was supposed to be pick your poison, a solid offensive line, maybe not great, but certainly high-end run blocking that was just opening up holes. Lyle Collins and Alex Kappa, like, think about that. Like, we were talking about that, the right side of the line and all of those things before the season started. Maybe they get to that. And if they get to that, cold weather games here at Paycor Stadium, and I'm still here, that's why I'm saying it as we record, that matters. And, you know, against the Chiefs, that matters against the Browns, that matters against the Bills in all of these games that you're going to have at home in December, because they're not at home now for the rest of the month. It's weird. They're not at home for basic 4 weeks. It's like December 3rd, December 4th against the Chiefs. So they have the bye, then they have the Steelers and Titans on the road, which, by the way, you know what's good to do on the road? Run the ball, take the crowd out of it, put them to sleep. And so who knows? It'd be nice to have Chase back too, of course.
Yeah, I think that will be very important. Joe Mixon also talked about when we get Jamar Chase back. So the reason that I brought that up was just because the fact that both guys talked about it, you're right. It might be nothing. It might be like that they're hopeful, but it might mean that they know something. I don't know. Maybe.
And the Bengals didn't. I will say this, and it stood out to me. Zach was offering up. It had to be Wednesday. It was a news conference setting. So this past Wednesday, and he was like, "There's a reason we didn't put Jamar Chase on IR, so that should tell you all you need to know." And like he was straight up, and it's like, okay. Well, I mean, and that could have been coach speak, but
he said that should tell you what we're hoping for. I think was the quote, or what like the good outcome would be. But yeah, you hope that you get him back before that 4-game window, which gives him a chance after the bye or the fall. But anyway, we'll have plenty of time to talk about Jamar Chase. The only other thing I wanted to mention really quick on the topic of the offense, Joe Mixon, Brian Callahan, since we're talking about those guys. Joe Mixon also shouted out Callahan in his post-game press conference for, it sounds like Brian went to that Saturday offense meeting, or I think it was just an offense meeting. Pretty fired up. Pretty inspiring stuff from the sounds of things from Joe Mixon. Sounds like he went in there with the fire lit under him and lit a fire under his guys too, and spoke some things into existence. Was I think roughly Joe Mixon's quote.
Yeah, and good. They need it. They're talented enough to do it. And look, Brian Callahan's been there and recovered from a Super Bowl loss before, and tried to rebound, and it's hard to do. He's done it. He's been on staffs like that. So if anyone could help navigate these waters some or get this offense right, it's him. And look, the Bengals deserve credit alone just for that, for rebounding quickly, burying that ugly game, and coming out inspired today, because that Panthers team, I really don't. I think they for sure were feeling good about themselves coming into today and confident. And their backup came in after halftime, and Joe Burrow was done with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Just beat down Central.
They're back down being Baker Mayfield. And I tweeted this, but James, you can confirm it now before we get to the defense. I said, watch, Baker Mayfield's going to play in this game.
You did.
Before we recorded our show.
Confirmed.
Our game preview. Yeah. So nailed it. We got one thing right about this game, that Baker Mayfield was going to play.
Hey, I picked the Bengals to win, just
Yeah.
not by 3,000.
Yep. Yep. Well, the defense was a big part of that. PJ Walker did not play well in this game. The Carolina Panthers couldn't get their running game going, and these are things that had been working for them the last 3 weeks. So a lot of credit to Lou Anarumo and his guys that were playing shorthanded, like you mentioned. So let's talk defense a little bit. And if we need to be negative, we could talk about special teams, because this is another week where it wasn't great. But we'll go to the defense next to close out the show.
First, a word from BetOnline, because BetOnline is your number one source for betting football, including the Bengals. Maybe you think the second half of the season, Joe Burrow is going to make a run at MVP or Offensive Player of the Year, or the Bengals are going to win the AFC North, which is still certainly possible. Maybe you think the Saints, Andy Dalton and the Saints, are going to handle business against the Ravens on Monday night. The point is you can wager on all of those games, whether it's future bets, current bets, and the NBA, well, it's in full swing now. I'm a big NBA head. Guess what? BetOnline is the place to go to wager on all things sports. So head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more and sign up for free. BetOnline, I've won money with them. You can too. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Let's go to the defense, James. The offense is missing Jamar Chase. And yes, Jamar Chase is very important player. Obviously makes a lot of things go in this offense, but they still have T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, the entire offensive line. Those guys are all healthy. And they were great today. They overcame not having Jamar Chase. On the defensive side of the ball, you're missing your number one corner who makes a lot of things go for this team in Chidobe Awuzie. You're missing your slot corner who also makes a lot of things go, the way he plays the run, the way he acts as a pass rusher as well. And Mike Hilton, the leadership he brings on the field and off the field. You're missing DJ Reader, who, if you've listened to this podcast at all before today, you probably know how highly James and I think of DJ Reader and how much flexibility he gives the Bengals behind the defensive front, because he does so much in the running game that really shouldn't be possible. He does things that nobody else in the league really does on a regular basis. And those three guys didn't play in this game. Carolina's offense had been good for the last couple of weeks in different ways, but they've been moving the ball. And PJ Walker looked absolutely lost. He looked like the XFL quarterback, not the NFL quarterback. He looked like, he could have thrown 3 picks. I mentioned the Cam Taylor-Britt penalty that was Carolina's first down of the game. That could have been picked. That's an overthrow to DJ Moore in a bracket where Jesse Bates is over the top.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he looked absolutely lost. And when you can't get it going on the ground and you're putting PJ Walker in a drop back passing situation against Lou Anarumo and a depleted defense, Lou Anarumo found the buttons to push to make Carolina's offense non-functional while the game was competitive.
No doubt. And here's the thing. First off, I don't want to hear this backup quarterback crap anymore. I'm done with it. Okay. Because that's not always true. And this idea dating back to Bruce Gradkowski in 2007 and all this stuff and all backup quarterbacks always. Actually, Cooper Rush is not why the Cowboys beat the Bengals. Right. And like the Dominic Foxworth stuff that I tweeted about and honestly made fun of because it was the biggest joke in the world when he said that PJ Walker would outplay Joe Burrow. The Panthers could have won today. And the likelihood of PJ Walker outplaying Joe Burrow was very slim. Everything Joe Burrow does for the Bengals alone versus how the Panthers have to win with PJ Walker when they do win. It's apples and 5-star buffets at Ruby's, which I know Ruby's doesn't have a buffet, but you get my point. And for those that don't know Jeff Ruby's, it's a fancy restaurant in Cincinnati. Lou Anarumo's defense, I mean, as good as Joe Mixon in this offense was, shorthanded as hell, going up and against an offense that feels pretty good about itself. PJ Walker with, in Joe Burrow's words, one of the best throws he's ever seen. They were confident coming into today. And they just popped that balloon and said, you do not belong here. You don't belong on the same field as us. We're better than you. You guys are tanking for a quarterback. And Deontay Foreman, he averaged 3.3 a carry and was a non-factor. They couldn't get a first down in the first half. A rookie corner had to gift them one, like you mentioned. And by the way, rookie corner, Cam Taylor-Britt, played well. Eli Apple played well, I thought. 2 interceptions, Jermaine Pratt and Jesse Bates. This defense was great. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. It allowed the offense to keep the momentum going and really beat up a team that I was wondering if they were capable of doing this, considering the fact that this defense was so shorthanded. And I know some would say, oh, well, they still scored 21. That was garbage time. The entire second half was garbage time. The Bengals, once they scored that final touchdown, Burrow didn't go back out there. That's all. This is running clock. This is high school style. They were just trying to get the heck out of here. They're banged up, right? They're limping into the bye with injuries, and they came out and they put out one heck of a performance on defense and took the air out of the sails of a Carolina team that felt pretty good about itself coming in.
Yeah, I think when it got to 28-0, all the win probability models had it at 100%. The Bengals are going to win. Historically, teams that have been in this spot don't lose, and then it gets to 35-0 going into halftime. Everything after 35-0 is 100% gonna be garbage time. So you credit the defense. You mentioned Cam Taylor-Britt played well. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I will need to go see it again. I think he played. I think he was active in the run game. I like that. Need to go watch his coverage snaps again. The illegal contact penalty, ticky-tack call, but also unnecessary to put yourself in that situation when you have help over the top. Did get beat. He got mossed a little bit. Great play from Terrace Marshall, I believe it was, right, for the touchdown.
It was in garbage time, so that doesn't count.
I know, but he's still out. Well, individual play you can still evaluate. You can still evaluate individual matchups. You can take away from like the overall results. Like I don't care that Carolina goes and scores 2 touchdowns against mostly backups out there, but that's just a one-on-one play for Cam Taylor-Britt. So we'll see. I'm going to be interested to see how he shows up.
I disagree. I think mentally it's really tough to stay like into a game like
if you're a rookie like Cam Taylor-Britt.
I mentally was already thinking about what I was going to do after the game.
It does change,
which is talk to you, which I love doing.
Yeah. A couple other things. Just some injury updates here. Dax Hill left the game with a shoulder injury. We'll have to see if he's okay.
I think it was separate. Like it came out. Like did it show on the broadcast him running off or anything? Okay,
no, I didn't see it.
So it was after that touchdown, after Carolina's first touchdown, it was literally hanging.
Yeah, that's bad.
And so yeah, not good. So I hope he's okay. It's certainly scary. And then Chris Evans, did they show anything on him either? Otherwise,
no.
I'll update
it
you.
was all just stuff from Twitter. Saw a knee injury, went to the tent, went to the locker room.
Yeah, so he injured it on the opening kickoff. That he came up the far sideline and he got hit and then out of bounds, hit a couple players on the sideline on the Panther sidelines. Mm-hmm. And he came in for one more play outside of that. And clearly, and he was flexing it and trying to work through it on the sidelines after that play. And then he came in for one more play and clearly wasn't it. So hopefully those two guys, and I get it, they're not, starters or anything like that, but you never know when depth is going to be tested. And heck, Pirine was limping early in the game and he came back in. So,
I mean, depth is going to be tested all year. If the year so far has been any indicator, and these are both guys that they could need at some point. So hopefully, those guys are going to be okay. That is something that could be important for this team down the stretch. Health is obviously something that we're monitoring. We've talked about DJ Reader, Jamar Chase, Chidobe Awuzie, and Mike Hilton in this show and all week, leading into this game. And so the takeaway is they get to the bye week at 5-4, which is necessary. We talked about this as a must-win game. They won it. They sort of keep up in the AFC. They give themselves a chance in the AFC North. And the AFC North might be their best path to the playoffs, the way things are shaking out, the way that, the Chargers have managed to tread water to 5-3. The Dolphins and Bills are competitive now with the Bills at 6-2, the Dolphins at 6-3. So the AFC, well, not as good as I feared it would be going into the season with all the talent that went from the NFC to the AFC and all the quarterbacks in the AFC. It's still going to be very competitive to get into the playoffs, to get through the wild card field, to get through your division. And where this is going to start for this team is getting healthy this week, coming off the win, finding the things that you can build on, making any of the adjustments that you need to make to the team the rest of the way. And the silver lining, I guess, to the way this season has gone is that they've had to go through so many iterations of this offense. We've seen them try so many different things, and now they've at least repped some of that stuff. And so you have that in your back pocket, like they did in today's game. They were running it from shotgun. They were running play action from shotgun. They got under center, had some success there as well. And the more you've had time to work on some of these ideas and get through these different kinds of offenses they've had to run, Joe Burrow said it, the more multiple you can be, the more ways you can win games. And hopefully that's what they're building on coming out of this bye. And hopefully some of these guys get a little bit healthier too as they try to make a playoff run.
Yeah, they got to start stringing some of these together. And Burrow mentioned it. You got to beat your own division at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And they have two big AFC North matchups after the bye, or AFC matchups after the bye. Obviously, Steelers on the road, and then the Titans, who probably going to win that division. But if not, you're battling for playoff seeding anyways. And how nice would it be to have wins over, the Titans, the Dolphins, the Jets, all teams that you could be competing for in that AFC playoff race. So, I think they've weathered the storm a bit, Jake. Obviously, it goes without saying they didn't get off to the start that anyone had anticipated this year. Mm-hmm. But at 5-4, now you collect yourselves, get healthy, take a deep breath, and move on from there. So it's a big win, regardless of the opponent, regardless of the quarterback. Doesn't matter. It's a big win today for the Bengals, and I'm sure they're smiling. Maybe Joe Burrow's still taking pictures of Joe Mixon. You never know.
Crazy how this year parallels last year in so many ways. I know that there are significant differences that people love to point out when you try to compare the years, but 5-4 going into the bye, tough schedule in the back half where the quarterbacks get a little bit harder. That's going to be the case again this year. They're going to have to beat some good teams, but they did it last year. They got hot and started beating good teams. Real quick, James, before we go, last question for you. What other contender in the NFL this year, also like the Bengals, has no wins in their division?
What other contender this year? Contender. All right, so define contender. That's
so
tough.
A team that is currently in the playoff picture or just outside of the playoff picture. A team that is expected to compete in the playoffs or have a chance to compete in the playoffs this year. Like a good chance. Winning records overall. Let's say that.
AFC or NFC?
AFC.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I was going to say the Patriots, but they beat the Jets for sure. It's not them, right?
No. Also, they're 5-4. Yeah, that's fair.
Hold on, I'm going through. It's got to be the AFC West. It's got to be.
You're getting colder.
No?
You're getting colder. It's the Buffalo Bills at 0-2 in the AFC East. Both of their losses
they just
this
haven't
year
played. Got it.
Are in the AFC East.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that. I was thinking AFC East for sure, but I wouldn't have guessed the Bills. So look at that.
AFC East, by the way, 6-2 Bills, 6-3 Jets. Now that win gets better and better every week. 6-3 Dolphins. That win looks better. Well, no Tua, whatever. That win still looks better and better every week. The Patriots are 5-4. I didn't even know that all of those teams
best division in football. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
that's next on no.
Go listen to Locked On NFL for that debate. We're not going to do it here on Locked On Bengals, but that is going to do it for this episode of Locked On Bengals. We'll be back this week getting you in to the bye. We're going to have some more time to reflect on and review this game against the Carolina Panthers, the demolition that was. We'll do some normal mid-season stuff, and then we got a bye week, James, and we'll have fun with it. We're going to continue to do some fun things here on Locked On Bengals, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, Bengals fans, hoo-day, and have a good one.